One thing I really like about this bank is how much everyone genuinely cares about their customers and about the community and about each other. Always trying to put ourselves in the customer's place. What would I expect if I were the customer? And then we try to take it up a few notches from there. And it's kind of like being part of the family when you're banking with us.
Good afternoon. I'd like to ask Commissioner Brian Eads to lead us in an invocation.
Would you bow with me, if you would? Father, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to meet here on Tuesdays. It's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful city. We have such great employees. We have such a great public giving us the opportunity to work together to make our city better, giving us an opportunity to help our kids grow and provide them opportunities to work and to serve. Thanks for all our employees, and thanks for all those that serve us here and abroad. Lord, be with us and help us to make good decisions and help the public to be insightful in helping us to do our job even better. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Amarillo City Commission, held this week on the third floor of City Hall at 3 p.m. First item of business today is the agenda approval of the minutes from last meeting from July 17, 2012. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from last meeting?
Mayor, I would move for approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Next item is ordinance number 7340. This is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2012-2013 budget and 5-year service plan, along with establishing and levying all annual property assessment for Greenways Public Improvement District, PID. The Greenways PID is located in the Greenway subdivision in southwest Amarillo. This ordinance is recommended for approval by unanimous vote of the Greenways Public Improvement District Board of Directors. Are there any questions about this agenda item from the audience? Certainly, sir, if you'd like to come forward. We'd ask everybody to keep your comments, if you would, to 3 minutes, and if you begin by stating your name and address, please.
Steve Kroger, 7414 Woodmont in the Greenways. I'm here to oppose this. Inscribed on the Liberty Bell, it's proclaimed liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. That's taken from Leviticus 25:10. It's talking about freedom from slavery. I believe the actions that's been happening out here in the Greenways is keeping the residents in slavery. Slavery to inept planning, neglect, discrimination, and incompetence. I have a written agreement with the city that when we first moved out there that I could plant or landscape on the public property. I had to take care of it, maintain it, replace it if it was, died. I've done my part very diligently. The city has not. There's been poor planting. We plant annuals instead of perennials. We plant cool weather grass instead of warm weathers. Instead of conserving water, we turn it off. There was a tree cut down 2 years ago that the stump is still sticking up for kids to trip over. We have another tree that's damaged 2 years ago by snow, early snow. And repeated calls to the Parks Department go unanswered. Who pays when those limbs fall on somebody? I bought the equipment, furnished the gas and the time, and I do the mowing. Outside of that, there's no maintenance on my side of the ditch out there. I talked to a contractor the other day that was fertilizing on the other side, and he was told he was to stay off my side of the ditch. And he specifically identified 3 of us on our side. And I think there needs to be a change in attitude on the city side before we raise any taxes. Because we're not being treated fairly, correctly. There's no Christian values out there whatsoever in the city.
Carter.
It's an eyesore.
Carter, I might, for the entire body today, ask the city to explain some of the responsibilities of the PID. For my part, from what I understand, the PID itself has a governing body. And that governing body proposes this. And the city acts as administrator to collect the taxes and distribute it. But I think from that, and specifically the things that Mr. Carter mentioned, could I ask either the city manager maybe to clarify some of those things? We may need some restatement of some of your questions, but
certainly be glad to. Mr. Carter, I've not heard of any of these issues. There's a gentleman in the back corner back here, Mr. Rod Tweed. Rod's the interim parks director. If you've got a few moments when we're done, he'd be glad to visit with you. As far as other decisions, annuals versus perennials, the types of grass that were planted, etc., what the assessments on your public improvement district go to do, that is a function of the development of the greenways, the design of the greenways, the amenities that are provided in the greenways. That's what that public improvement district does. It does have a board that's composed, I don't think entirely, but largely, of the other homeowners, and that's where those decisions are made and those recommendations come forward. That particular public improvement district also has a pretty significant debt payment that it makes each year back to cover some of the costs for those improvements. As far as items like those trees, again, if you'll get with Mr. Tweed, I bet you that's something we can deal with very, very quickly. As far as the routine, the mowing, trimming, weed eating, etc., that's done by a contractor, and that contractor is in effect working for the board of the public improvement district. But certainly, I hear what you're saying about the trees, and that's something I guarantee that we can get to very quickly. And I may not have answered all your questions. If not, let me know.
Well, progress.
Mr. Carter, could I ask you to define for me, because I didn't quite understand, you said you had a written agreement with the city. I didn't quite understand it. Could you define that for me or explain a little further so I understand it?
Well, I can't think of the gentleman's name. He was the retired parks director like 2 times ago. But we moved out there in 1998. We built. There was 2 Bradford pears, a burr oak, a shrub bed, and a swamp. And so we got the swamp taken care of. And one of the Bradford pears has died. The other one is dead. It just needs to be cut down and replaced. And
Those are on public property.
Right. Anyway, I planted grass, trees. I landscaped it.
On your property or on part of PID property?
On PID property. I like my saints. I like property value. I'm trying to keep my property value up.
Absolutely.
And the way the PID looks, it's not conducive to positive property value. It's an eyesore. Dead grass, fungus, tree limbs hanging, burned up, dead.
Hey, I was just, it's Mr. Carter, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was, have you, when the PID board indeed meets as it does periodically, have you taken these concerns to them?
Don't know when the meetings are. I used to be on the list. I had the minutes and agendas mailed to me so I could participate in the public process. But they don't want me there.
The board does not want you there?
No,
They've stated that?
not verbally.
Well, again, if you
I
have
used to attend the meetings, and it's just their attitude. They don't care about the public.
Of course, I think the thing that we understand and hope that you'd carry back to them is you're certainly part of that whole process. I mean, just like you are here, part of the process. Absolutely have some input, and they voted. We, by the original design of the PID, we act on what they suggested. We see nothing incorrect about the figures or administration of it, then we act on that. The individual things that you're talking about, I think, as Commissioner Reed says, and I think the city manager says, probably help best with that PID governing board, which certainly you can approach them. And I'm sure that they have a method of replacing those board members too, to get more representation, different representation too. Am I not correct?
certainly. Rod, would you raise your hand, please? Mr. Carter, gentleman right back there. If you have a minute, please talk to him. The trees are something that we can get on that pretty quickly. And be glad to do that. If you have a chance, and I'm trying to remember two park directors ago, would that have been Mr. Strawn, Dwayne Strawn? Holster. If you had a copy of that, I'd be interested in seeing that if I could. And we may have one here. This is just the first I've heard of it. Okay. And you said 1998?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you were one of the first people in there.
Yes.
I'm taking it as you don't oppose the PID, you just want to do what they say to do.
Well, I'm opposed to the way it was set up to start with, but I can live with it. But why tax me if you're not doing anything?
Well, there's, as they said, there's some obligation bonds that are being paid and some other general maintenance that the governing board has said that they want us.
We're not getting what we pay for.
Well, not to put you off, but I think your argument in this case, in these specific things, is with that governing board. We'd certainly be happy to hear about it if you're not able to get through to them or not able to deal with them, then I think it would come back to us. And I'd be happy to go with you if you want to.
Okay? I can find out where they are.
Call me.
Okay?
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I'll give you my number if you want to jot it down.
Okay.
It's 679-0911. That's my cell number. You're welcome to use it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else has a comment? Sir, please. Again, we'd ask you to state your name and address, please, and keep your comments within 3 minutes, please.
Ray Churchman, 7804 Bayswater Road. I live directly across from the park. Well, that empty lot in the park. I think 7% increase in these days and times is way high. I'm retired, fixed income. I don't get a 7% increase every year. I didn't even know there was such a board. I've never been told.
I can't quite hear you, sir.
I was never told that there was a public improvement board. We get notices from the HOA, Homeowners Association. We never, I have in 10 years, have gotten a notice that that board you mentioned is meeting. So far as the park, I'm not very happy with the park at all. When I go walking, I take a plastic bag to pick up beer bottles and plastic bottles and cigarette packs and snuff cans that are pitched out that the city never picks up. And I live there and I want the park to look nice, so I pick them up and I'll fill that sack at least twice every time I go walking. That park was put in with no lights, and it was that way for over a year. I understand the developer eventually put in some lights. When there were no lights out there would be 100 cars parked on that curved road at midnight. No police protection. I had a kid in a Pontiac Firebird who would start on the west side and accelerate all the way around that curve right next to the park, and then hit the brakes so he could stop, and then he'd accelerate down the straightaway until he got to the corner, hit the brakes, stop, and start all over again. I called the police, and I smoked, so I sit out front and watch that park quite a bit. I watched for an hour, no policeman showed up. It's not patrolled regularly. I was out walking one time, and there was a kid passed out in a pickup in the middle of that road. I didn't have my cell phone with me. By the time I got back to the house to get the cell phone, another gentleman had called, and the ambulance was out there hauling the kid away. As to the condition of the park, it's full of weeds and dead grass. It's not green. It just finally greened up last week for whatever reason. It's been yellow all year. The original grass south of the bridge has been allowed to die. It was good grass, very comfortable. The new grass, no one goes on it because it's weeds and dead grass. There's big bare patches out there. If I owned that property and was paying someone to maintain it, I wouldn't feel that I was getting my money's worth. That's just the way it is. Since that new addition of the park has gone in, the level of trash in my house has escalated. I can sit out front, kids go by and they just pitch their bottles. Their plastic pop things out the window. I think the assessment's a little high that's a lot high for what we're getting. But if the original agreement was to pay it, sure, I'll pay it. But I gotta tell you, I don't think we're getting our money's worth. They have a porta potty that is maintained out there that the kids turn over regularly. A porta potty in a neighborhood like Greenways, porta potty.
Is it part of the park, or is it part of the construction?
It's in the park. And they drove in 2 iron rods, fencing posts next to it, and kids would tear that out and still turn over the porta potty. We retired, and that's our retirement home, and that's where we plan to live and die. That park is an embarrassment, not only to Greenways, but to the city. And, it's very poorly maintained. We're paying for the park. It's a public park. We have a little pond over there, and I go over to people fishing. Catch anything? Yeah, catfish and carp. Where do you live? I'll live over by Pebble Grove. But, we're paying for a city facility, which strikes me as terribly underreached. As soon as I find out when the board meets, I'll certainly let them know.
Well, it's not a private improvement district, it's a public improvement district. Thereby, it's open to anybody in the city. I want to make that point for the audience, that those areas are absolutely public. They're absolutely available to everybody. And I think fortunately, those people are able to go out and fish and enjoy that from whatever part of town they are. Other than that, you've got to get a gated community, and I think that expense would be up.
And I have no problems with them enjoying it. I just don't think I should have to pay for them to enjoy it.
Well,
but that's personal.
I don't think your fee is stocking fish.
I
don't think it is any more than. But I would tell you, just from a standpoint of information, we on this body have increased the police force about 12. We know that you are being patrolled. It may not seem like it, but I can absolutely guarantee you, and would suggest you to consider joining the Citizens Police Academy, and you'll learn what they do on a regular basis, learn how they do protect us, and learn again about priority calls and the level of when there may be 200 calls in an evening that have a prioritized nature. And certainly if you were sitting there in their shoes doing that, I think you'd act the same way. But I will tell you that we also, on this group, would like to see the police department increased and that burden spread And I can tell you that there already is an improvement in patrolling and hotspot areas and things like that. So these things that you're saying are noted. The city manager obviously will follow up on that. But other than that, I think many of those things come back to the PID and to the governing board. I don't know. Mr. City Manager?
If I could add a point of clarification, Mr. Churchman, correct? The park proper is not part of the PID. So the
new park area?
That new park is not. I presume we're talking about the one at the south end of the subdivision?
Yes.
Yeah, that is not part of the PID.
That's just $400,000 over that thing? It seems kind of high, but.
No, the PID is taking care of the various entry features, the brick walls, the grass, the flowers, the greenways proper, the two big landscape greenways.
I'll be honest with you, if the increase had been 2 or 3%, I'd have stayed home and watched TV.
And I understand, but
7% is just.
Let's clarify what that is, though.
two different issues, and what I'm trying to say is if that park's not being maintained properly, that's my fault. So we'll start looking on that. I will tell you this, let me speak please. That park has had extremely high levels of use since the day it opened, just as you've indicated. There has been substantial police activity out there at different times. Certainly, I don't have enough police to park there and do that continuously. We'll continue to work on that, but your increase is not going to that park. The 7% increase is for the actual PID areas in and amongst the greenways and is covering those expenses. So you've got good points and valid complaints about the park, and I'll take that and be glad to work with it. The 7% in the proposed budget is a different issue than that park. Okay.
Well, I really think the 7% is out of line in these days.
Mr. Churchman, and I'd like to define that because I think I heard in the pre-meeting from Mr. Shaw that 7% represents $35 a year. And so, you know, that's not a small amount, I understand that. But a 7% increase in some cases could amount to hundreds of dollars. And in this case, it amounts to, is that correct, Mr. Shaw?
You're correct, Mayor, for a residential B lot, there are 3 different types of lot basically out there. For example, the vast majority of lots are B lots, and that would be the $35 increase.
But I don't know if you're aware of that figure, but it is.
I'm aware of the figure.
Okay, good.
But it's $35 this year, and then next year it's 7%, and it's $35, $652 plus 35%. You know, taxes never go down. And, you know, I think we should be really, in my opinion, I think we should be really cautious about, you know, if the city proposed a 7 or 8% tax increase, should be facing the rollback.
Well, and we haven't. And
no,
you have chosen an area that has agreed to pay and provide a PID for you, but you have a governing board that works with that.
I will make every effort to find out.
And you might meet up with Mr. Carter and talk to him. And again, I'll offer that I would certainly attend and learn, but I can't imagine that those people wouldn't welcome people to the meeting and get some input. Now, I would tell you, as with our budget process, we have just agreed to meet for 3 days, 8 hours a day to get through our process, and you may have to invest some time in learning what they deal with on the basis of developing that and maintaining it. So it isn't a hit and run deal. You're investing some time if you get in there, but I'd suggest you get in there and look into it a little more. And then come back to us, and I'll be happy to talk to you anytime.
Got nothing but time. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your input.
I would just like to make the point once more that this is not a fee increase by the city. This is a decision by the PID board, and so this would be best brought to the homeowners association, the PID board, or all the developers.
Correct.
Is really the place where this needs to begin. All we do is collect that, and then pay the designated contractor that has been designated by the PID board.
And we have a legal responsibility to deal with that board in a certain way, and that's what we're fulfilling in our action. It isn't we make no decision about adding to the greenways or whatever. That's not our purview. We deal with the basic taxes, and I will note to you that I understood from a comment the other day that our taxes are about 13 cents lower than Lubbock, and so we're being pretty careful about that.
not when you had $562. So I will say.
We aren't adding that, sir.
I will say.
We absolutely are not adding that. So I will not take that comment as a real comment, because we aren't doing that.
I will say that the developer did go in and put up lights the following summer. And it made a lot of improvement. A lot of improvement.
Sir, good.
But, you know. Okay, well anyhow, thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here.
Well, I have to ask if someone else needs to talk, because obviously I need to
Ma'am,
talk.
would you give your name and
Matt
address?
London, 6006 Tuscany Village. I'm here to represent the developer of the Greenways, and I would gladly have y'all come visit me about y'all's concerns in the Greenways and explain how the PID works. And while this tax is strictly for our area, it does have to do with, some of it does have to do with our water bill. I mean, that is the biggest increase we have. And so while that is our bill, I'm not saying it's not your bill, I want them to understand that when things go up, we have to adjust our budget accordingly. And probably the largest increase we've had in our budget over the last several years has been our water, and it's important for us to water our stuff and to try to keep up the value of what we've already put in that infrastructure out there. So that's part of the increase. Some of it is because we didn't develop as many lots as planned. We have to do this according to the balance of how we develop the lots and the number of lots and how many households are paying it. And also, we're starting to be old enough that we're having to fix some things. See, in the past, it was everything was so new that we really didn't have anything as far as fixing things. And I have $20,000 in the budget this year that have to fix the electricity, the lighting, and the entrances. After a while, the sprinkler systems get into the lighting and they just deteriorate. So that's a part of the explanation on some of the increases this year. I do want y'all to know we have not been really satisfied with the parks and the conditions they're in either, both in the PID and in the regular park itself. But actually, Rod Tweed and I met yesterday with Eddie and some of our staff to discuss what we need to do for the area, because we've been concerned too. So it's not that it's not being worked on. I'm sorry that these gentlemen maybe didn't call me. I might could help them a little bit. Sometimes it takes in a little extra push, and I don't want them calling me to discuss the PID in that area. So I just want to let y'all know kind of where we were. I have to back them up that we are not satisfied with the way the park has been being taken care of. And we are trying very hard to keep a good relationship with the city and move forward on how we can improve where we've miscommunicated and where things aren't going the way we expect it to be. So I have to back up that what they're saying, there is some fact, there's definitely some facts behind everything they're saying. And I do want to say that the lighting did make a lot of difference in the park, and that the HOA is still paying for extra patrols, because we feel like that's part of our job too. And we actually have it in the HOA budget for extra patrols in our neighborhood. Just, you know, we feel like that's part of our duty too. So we're trying to be good, you know, we're trying to make this liaison as good as possible, but we're also working very hard not to have any increases in the PID. It's just we had to this year. I mean, reluctantly.
We understand, but I think what we've identified is a bit of communication that has to go on between your PID and the group. So
we get lots of people calling, so I'm surprised these two guys have missed me. But I'm at the office all the time, and so I'm welcome to there. But I do want you to know their complaints are justified, but we are working on them.
thank you. Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment?
I'm Amy Taylor Estine, live on 721 Short Street. Am a member of Amarillo Citizens for Property Rights, and nice to see all of you. I felt like this was a good time to visit because the people from the Greenways who are in the PID are having difficulties with something that is in the comprehensive plan. The PID is part of our comprehensive plan, which the city has adopted. And back in May, Mr. Norris was chair of the Resolutions Committee for the Republican Party. Do you remember that?
Ms. Resting, may I ask you to limit your comments?
Yes, I have
Please,
3 minutes.
Ms. Resting.
I'm Mrs. Taylor Restine, and I have 3 minutes.
Ms. Resting, would you please, I'll extend your time while I clarify something.
Okay.
Okay. I would like you to restrain your comments to this PID.
And that is what I'm talking about, because
Okay, your
if
time
you
is
look,
on again.
listen, on page 3.20 of the comprehensive plan, it says PID small s, PIDs, Public Improvement Districts. And I'm talking about the PIDs, which is what they're talking about, which is in the comprehensive plan, which is why I'm here and why I came
Certainly.
2 years ago.
And your question is?
Okay, and I have 3 minutes.
Certainly.
I have 3 minutes to talk
Certainly.
without you interrupting me.
Well, I'm clarifying.
You're not clarifying.
Yes, I am, ma'am.
You are
I
interrupting
want you to be
me.
very careful about questioning what we're doing to clarify.
Mr. Norris, is the mayor allowed to comment at this time?
Absolutely. The mayor is allowed to comment.
Is he allowed during my 3 minutes of time where I
Ms.
speak?
Resting, you are not here to give a speech. You're here to ask a question.
And I am here to ask a question.
Then ask the question, but you're not here to give a speech.
I'm here to give a 3-minute question.
And your question is?
Okay, starting at the 3 minutes.
No,
There
you
are
have
not
45
kids. Okay.
seconds left.
I'm glad that the news is here to cover this.
Certainly.
That you cannot bully the citizens.
I'd be happy to meet with you for an hour afterwards.
You know what? I'm going to meet in public because what you do in private needs to be in public.
Well,
Everyone in Amarillo needs to know what you are doing.
I'd invite the press to that meeting too.
I'm glad. I would invite them to it too, but right now I'm invited to this. And I'm going to have my 3 minutes and you're not going to interrupt me.
I think that's wrong. I have the ability to clarify questions.
You do not have the ability to interrupt my questions.
You're out of order and your time is up. Please take your seat.
Okay?
Please take your seat.
You will get your questions on the news.
Fine.
And I encourage
Please take your
the
seat,
members of the
ma'am. You're
PID
out of order.
to contact our
Please
group if you
take
have the
your-
same kind of consideration.
Please do. Please do. Is there anyone else that'd like to make a comment, please? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Any comments from the commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would move that we approve the budget and 5-year service plan for Greenways Public Improvement District.
Also known as ordinance number 7340, I would say.
We have a motion and a second to approve number 7340 ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. The next item is ordinance number 7341. This is first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2012-2013 budget for the 5-year service plan, along with establishing a levy and annual property tax assessment for Brennan Boulevard Public Improvement District. The Brennan PID is located within the Brennan subdivision in southwest Amarillo. There is a suggestion that it's a zero increase this year. Do I have any comments about this Brennan Improvement District? In the details, I think you'll see that there is, we are suggesting there's a zero improvement. Is that right, Mr. Shaw or City Manager?
Certainly, Mayor, apologize, let me catch up on the papers here. The total assessment on the Brennan Boulevard PID was programmed to go up by just under $900 for the totality of that PID. Your planning staff today recommended that we not change that increase. That would have been a 6% increase for that. It's a very small PID for that one. So the assessment that we're recommending you consider today would be no change from last year, for a total amount of $14,084.
Okay.
And I might add to that, just And that's based on the amount of fund reserve that they currently have that would be able to cover the expenses that their program has.
That's good. Their fund balance, so to speak, is significantly higher than the 3-month reserve we target.
Okay. Are there any comments from the audience in regards to 7341? From the commission? Not entertain a motion?
Mayor, I would move for approval of ordinance number 7341 with a 0% increase in the assessment for fiscal years 2012-2013 only.
I will second ordinance number 7341.
We have a motion and a second for ordinance number 7341. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Ordinance number 7342. This is the first reading of an ordinance adopting a 2012-2013 budget and 5-year service plan, along with establishing and levying an annual property assessment on Quail Creek Public Improvement District. Quail Creek, PID, is located at Quail Creek Subdivision in northwest Amarillo. This ordinance is recommended for approval by unanimous vote of the Quail Creek Public Improvement District Board of Directors. Are there any questions regarding 7342 from the audience? From the commission? Not, I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 7342.
Second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 7342 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Ordinance number 7343. This is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2012-2013 budget and 5-year service plan, along with establishing and levying an annual property assessment for the Redstone PID. The Redstone PID is located south of Coulter Street and Hollywood Road in Amarillo. This ordinance is recommended for approval by a unanimous vote of the Redstone Public Improvement District Advisory Board. Do we have any comments from the audience about this ordinance number 7343? From the commission?
Mayor, I would move for approval of ordinance number 7343.
Second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 7343 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Ordinance number 7337. This is the second and final reading of an ordinance changing the zoning of the 77.99 acre tract of unplanted land in section 63, block 9, BS&S survey, Randall County, in the vicinity of Hillside Road and Nancy Ellen Street, from agricultural district to planned development district for mixed use development. This is the second reading. We went over this in detail last week. Does anyone have any questions from the audience about this ordinance? From the commission? Not, I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 7337.
Second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 7337 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Ordinance number 7338. This is the second and final reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 16-3 Traffic of the Amarillo Municipal Code regarding school zone speed limits signage. This time, there are 2 different code sections to enforce the school zone speed limit based on whether the signage for the zone was posted on a traditional sign or was electronically controlled sign. This ordinance will remove the distinction between the 2 types of signs, and it's recommended for approval. Are there any questions about ordinance number 7338 from the audience or from the commission? Now I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would move for approval of ordinance number 7338.
I second that motion.
All those in favor of ordinance number 7338 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Ordinance number 7339. This is the second and final reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 18-2 Water Utility System of the Amarillo Municipal Code to revise the protocol for water meter testing. This ordinance is recommended in order to update the city's meter testing standards in accordance with the industry standards prescribed by the American Water Works Association. Are there any questions about ordinance number 7339, the second and final reading, from the audience? From the commission? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 7339.
Second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 7339 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. resolution, public hearing, and approval of the Community Development and Housing Guide to citizen participation. The resolution conducts a public hearing to allow interested parties to comment on the revised Community Development and Housing Guide to citizens' participation. The guide is consistent with the requirements of citizen participation as required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The Community Development Advisory Committee recommends the approval of the Community Development and Housing Guide to citizen participation. And I think the next item really deals with the nuts and bolts of this. Is there any explanation needed by the audience further than what's in the agenda packet? Or would you like to?
Mayor, if I could, under this particular item, I'm going to ask Mr. James Allen to make himself available. This is officially the public hearing on the citizen participation plan. This document that I believe has been published, has been run through other hearings. The hearing is now before the City Commission. Mayor would request that you call for comment. If there are any comments on the document, if there's any questions or clarifications, Mr. Allen will be able to help us with that.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about this allocation?
Trina Fournier, 4427 South Hayden. I'm just wondering, you said that it had been available, there was a document that had been available and been posted, there have been hearings. I never saw it. It's a constant frustration for me when I come to meetings and I hear this has been up for public comment for 45 days and never heard about it before, and I'm up here all the time. I talked to Sonia about this and I talked to Dean about it, maybe getting something on the website. When there is some kind of public document like this for review, that it would be on the front page of the city's website.
I just want to clarify a couple things. The Citizens Development Advisory Committee had 2 public meetings to discuss the Citizens Participation Guide. It is on the city website. It's under the Community Development Department. I understand the concern, and I'm not sure what can be done about that as far as changing the format of our website, but it is actually published. We did not hear any comments from the public either at the meeting or during the public comment period as far as any questions or concerns about the citizens participation guide.
I would like a little bit of clarification, just what the policies are regarding when we're having a public hearing and how those are posted, just so the public can know that.
So it's an excellent question, and we'll have James or Vicki catch me when I get out of line on this. Certainly, especially for this program, this has some of the most prescriptive posting requirements of which I'm aware. Very large section ads are run in the newspaper. They're run multiple times. It does appear on the internet. It's available in the Community Development Office. Goes through multiple hearings before it gets to here. The question of having a linked button or something on the homepage is something that has come up. I think the difficulty they've had with that in the past, there's 60-some departments, and we wouldn't have anything up there other than those buttons if we were to do that. It is something that we can possibly look to making it easier. Be glad to do that, but nonetheless, it has been posted. It is posted on that website, advertised in the paper, posted on the door of the building. Really, it goes through greater lengths of posting than would even a city commission meeting.
Well, and there would be times, I guess, taken to its extreme, every time you wanted to send out some kind of a contract for bid, you'd have to go through extraordinary posting just for every item.
Yeah, and there is an extensive process for a published bid. Exactly.
Mr. Atkinson, there's also one other way that we advertise our meetings, and that's through the United Way listserv, which the last I was told, there's over 500 agencies, not only in Amarillo, but in the Panhandle, that goes out to. Now, I don't know, I don't have access to the actual names and agencies, but I understand it's a very extensive listserv, and so we do everything we can to let our participating agencies, or even agencies that don't actually have anything to do with the community development department, know about that, so they actually have ways of disseminating that information to their clients in their sphere of influence also.
May I ask you to, I think it's important that the public understands how hard this committee works. And you served as chairman before becoming an employee.
Yes, sir.
For 20 plus years, I think.
Also on the committee that one, yes, sir.
Yeah, you were on the committee as a volunteer, and that is comprised of about 11 members, is it not?
11 citizens that represent different portions of our target area, and our target area is the low to moderate income portions of Amarillo. So those citizens are a direct link to neighborhoods as far as concerns, and so our committee, we have three of our committee members here today, believe me, they're not shy about telling us what the community expects and has needs, and we do everything we can to address it. Sometimes they're not even issues that related to the community development department, but we get it to the appropriate department. If it's a city issue or even outside agencies, we try to be a liaison to address those issues.
But we are basically distributing federal funding that comes back to us to support the community, correct?
That is correct.
We have had a cut over a 3-year period of over 33% of that funding, correct? So it becomes a very difficult job for volunteers to deal with. I've attended those meetings and watched them struggle with it. That's only a culmination of them visiting the agencies, discerning what has to be done, staff members giving recommendations, and really dealing with one of the most difficult problems in our city. I might ask your chairman of that committee to come forward, and as a matter of explanation, would you mind adding anything to that at all, Mr. Chuck? You're the replacement guy. You're the new chairman.
He's the upper.
He's
the freebie.
How long
I'm
have
the
you served on
freebie,
that?
yeah. Chuck Barr, chairman of the CDAC committee, and I do want to recognize, if you don't mind, a couple of the committee members that are
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. I found that I'm out of order. We need to.
Finish what you're doing.
We're going to get back to this, but we do need to act on the resolution.
Certainly, Mayor, I might suggest that we close the public hearing.
Okay.
And ask the commission to consider the resolution under this item, which again is specifically for the participation plan. Allocations will be our next item.
Okay. Thank you. You may get to come back up.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would move for approval of this resolution, closing the public hearing, and then the approval of the community development and housing guide to the citizens.
Second. All those in favor of the resolution as just stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Item 10 then is the resolution, public hearing, and approval of the 2012-2013 annual action plan of the Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development. This resolution conducts a final public hearing to allow interested parties to comment on the proposed activities and programs, and authorizes the City of Amarillo to submit the 2012-2013 annual action plan of the 2010-2014 Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The 2012-2013 allocation reflects a total 19% reduction in funds, with the most significant reduction in the Home Investment Partnership Program. Beginning on October 1st of 2012, this federal fund will provide a variety of programs, services, and projects which benefit low and moderate income residents in neighborhoods in Amarillo. The annual action plan is recommended for approval by the Community Development Advisory Committee. And so, Mr. City Manager, at this point, we just need to have public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that we had your chairman, Mr. Parr, up and was going to introduce a few of his board members and certain questions and consideration.
Now, Chuck.
Now it's okay.
Two introductions. Let me introduce Lee Studer. He's one of the committee members, and Glenda Grisham. As you stated earlier, Mayor, the volunteers are vital that we do meet and work very hard to make sure that we're vetting these funds, make sure they're being spent properly. I can go down the list if I need to. It's up to you. We talked about it earlier. I mean, we did, like I said, 12% in the community development side, 32% on the home, as you stated, so it averages out to 19% cut in funds. So was a struggle this year, but we were able to still fund some very good projects. So I don't know if you need any further questions from me.
Mayor, if I might add a comment, and certainly not to speak on behalf of the elected body, I think you all said it well during the work session. This is a program that takes funds from the federal government directly back to the city of Amarillo and others. It is the program that provides the direct benefit to those targeted areas with low and moderate income communities. Many of the social services agencies that I think we're all very familiar with in Amarillo rely on this program in general. Some as a major portion of their funding, some as major portions of funding for particular programs, but nonetheless, they're names that I think we're all, very well aware of and that touch a lot of lives in Amarillo. The issue that Mr. Parr, Mr. Allen, Ms. Grisham, Mr. Studer, the whole board faced this year, we're continuing to have those reductions in the funding that's returned to Amarillo. And at the end of the day, this group is making very, very difficult decisions, knowing that regardless of what we do, with us not receiving the full funding, there are needs in the community that will go unmet. And certainly I know from my standpoint, I appreciate what they do and would not want to be on that. That's got to be one of the toughest decisions, but I appreciate what you're doing. And Mayor, if you have any specific questions or questions from the audience, Mr. Parr, Mr. Allen, be pleased to assist with that.
Are there any questions from the audience that these gentlemen could address? Any questions from the commission? Yes.
Not so much a question, but a comment. Mr. Parr, emphasis on Mr. Parr.
I like Mr. Thank you.
I say this every year, that there's no way that I can deliver to you the appreciation that I have, we have, for what you and this committee does. It's unbelievable. I've gone to some of the meetings, I didn't this year, but the job that they have is so difficult and yet so important to our community, because you're addressing the needs of people that seldom have a voice. And yet it's so important to our community. And you're doing this with declining funds. And you do it with such passion, meeting long and often. And I can't express, no committee or board or commission that we appoint or that we have, I don't think that we get the bang for the buck, if you will, which you could say that with a volunteer group. But it's unbelievable what you do, and I sincerely appreciate it. In this community, I know appreciates it.
Thank you. People really care. I think that's why we're able to get involved and find out what's really going on.
Yes, sir.
And how many people on that 11-member committee serve from targeted areas?
Well, we all represent a targeted area. All of us are appointed, except for me, I'm the chairman at large, but everybody has a targeted area they represent inside that, like the northeast area, the target area, the southwest, that type.
So we are very careful to represent the needs of the whole community.
Yes, we have.
And that board, I think in the past, has recommended, in many cases, they've been the funding mechanism for splash pads.
Yes.
8, and they've all been in parts of town that need some revitalization, need some help. So we can be proud of those. We went to Hamlet and saw some of that activity and how the park was being helped and the playgrounds. And actually, I took somebody by there, a taxpayer the other day, that wanted a little tour, and it was inundated with children playing with the splash pad. It was, you just about had to take a ticket and get in line to get through the splash pad.
To get wet.
It was great. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you for letting us serve. We appreciate it.
And for those committee members that are here representing the others that would be here, I'm sure, if they could. So, any other comments from anyone, either commission or audience? Not entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would move that we amend this public hearing, that we approve the 2012-2013 annual action plan for housing and community development.
I would second.
All those in favor of the resolution as stated, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. The consent agenda. It's recommended the following items be approved, that the city manager be authorized to execute all documents necessary for each transaction. We only have one item this time, approval, number A of the state Local Urban Public Transportation Project Grant Agreement. And since there isn't any removal of items, do we have a motion regarding that consent agenda?
Mayor, I would move for approval of the acceptance of this grant in the consent agenda.
Second.
Are there any comments about the consent agenda as presented? Not. We have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 3-0 vote. Well, this concludes the agenda for the regularly scheduled meeting of the City Commission. We will move back into executive session when this session is over. It's however customary at this time to allow citizens of the community with matters pertaining to city policies, programs, and services to speak to the Commission. And the floor is now open for such comments. Anyone that would like to come forward, please come forward.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Kathy Altman, 2105 South Lipscomb. I certainly had no problem with the public hearing y'all just conducted, but I did have a problem with the one last Wednesday morning. It was a tiers billed as a public hearing. Okay, the committee sat around the table, talked fairly quietly. There were about 12 people in the audience. We could not hear very well. We certainly didn't hear everything that was said. There were no handouts to the public. They didn't ask for questions from the public or comments. There was no PowerPoint with, bullet points saying what they were discussing, and yet it was billed as a public hearing, and I'm sure it's going to be counted that they had a public hearing. To me, that was not a public hearing. It was a open meeting, which went into executive session at one point, but was not a public hearing. So I think y'all need to be careful when you...
And that was in room 306 probably.
Probably, but when we were in that, whatever the number was.
Yeah, down the hall. But I suggest that we look at that as the city staff, look at that and see about projecting that with microphones or whatever.
Right, I mean, there were no microphones. We could hear some, but we certainly couldn't hear everything that was discussed. There was no visuals, there was nothing. I mean, we were all just sitting there just...
Well, and something to note is that it's been the policy, as I just stated, the policy to ask for comments at the end of our meeting. There is no legal requirement for those comments, and so, but we encourage them here, and we would encourage them to consider that, although they get pretty detailed. I served on that board, and it gets pretty intense about learning the details of what's going on, so if there was some oversight, I'll ask for the city to sort of monitor that a little better. Certainly, Mr. Shaw.
We will try to do what we can about projecting the sound a little bit better. I don't know what we can do about that, but we can certainly look into it. There was a PowerPoint presentation given by one of the applicants for one of the agenda items on the agenda that, and we did go into executive session later as called by the chairman on that particular agenda item. That executive session did last for quite a while, and when it was reconvened, there really weren't any public participants left, and at the point of the agenda where the chairman did ask for public comments, there really wasn't anybody there, but we do have that on each.
You do have public comments on the agenda? Yes. Okay. That could have been like our situation tonight. We go into executive session, it goes for quite a while. If they come back from that deal and do that at the conclusion of their meeting, there may be no one left there is what we're suggesting. But we'll certainly ask them to look at it.
Okay. Thank you. I've been to a lot of public hearings, and that one was definitely not conducted like the rest of the public hearings.
And if I might, Mayor, I don't think it was literally a public hearing.
It said it right outside the door. It said public hearing.
Okay, we'll look at the agenda. I think that was a posted meeting of a public body, so I'd have to look at that.
There's sort of a legal definition for public hearing or public meeting.
And it may be that we have to look at moving those meetings I don't want to give a false pretense. I'm not convinced that we can put a sound system in that room the way it's configured, the way those tables are constantly moved. It's never the same room twice. So let us look into it. We have numerous meetings in there. This is the first that I've heard we've had trouble hearing, but different people speak at different volumes and so forth. So we'll look at it and see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you mind if I approach to hand?
Sir, and sir, would you give your name and address, please?
Yes, sure. My name is Carl Taylor Reston, 721 Short Street.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I've already stated my name, my address. I am an ex-police officer for the city of Amarillo, and at present I teach high school physics, chemistry, biology, and art, and have taught for 24 years. My goal this afternoon is to inextricably tie ICLEI to the United Nations and to Agenda 21. If you could please refer to the packet before you. The first document is directly from the ICLEI website, describing the foundation of ICLEI, and I will read it right from their website page. Founded in 1990, ICLEI was founded in 1990 as the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. The council was established when more than 200 local governments from 43 countries convened at our inaugural conference, the World Congress of Local Governments for a Sustainable Future at the United Nations in New York. ICLEI was founded in 1990 at the United Nations in New York. The next section is also directly from the ICLEI website describing the foundation of Agenda 21. I will read this directly from the ICLEI website page, and it's the next page. Excuse me. Moving from agenda to action. During the local government session at the World Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, August 2002, local government leaders from around the world, as well as representatives from the United Nations Development Program, United Nations Environmental Program, UN Habitat, and the World Health Organization joined ICLEI in launching Local Action 21 as the next phase of Local Agenda 21. Local Action 21 will support local governments' ongoing efforts in response to Agenda 21, the Rio Conventions, the Habitat Agenda, and the Millennium Declaration. That is right from the ICLEI webpage site or website. The next several pages describe the ICLEI local governments for sustainable and the UN connection. And I won't go over those because of time constraints. The next section is taken from GOP.com, the Republican National Committee's Council's official office website. This is the Republican National Committee's approved resolution exposing Agenda 21 at their winter meeting, January 13th, 2012. And I believe we have done the same here in Amarillo, in Texas, excuse me, in the 2012 Republican Party of Texas Report of Platform Committee and Rules Committee. And let's see, I believe that Mr. Norris, you were the chair for that Resolutions Committee, and I'll read it here. United States Agenda 21, the Republican Party of Texas should expose all United Nations Agenda 21 treaty policies and its supporting organizations, agreements, and contracts. We oppose the implementation of UN Agenda 21 program, which was adopted at the Earth Summit Conference in 1992, purporting to promote a comprehensive program of sustainable development projects nationally, regionally, and locally. We oppose the influence, promotion, and implementation of non-governmental organizations, metropolitan and/or regional planning organizations, councils of government, and International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, and the use of American Texas citizens' taxes to promote these programs. Let's see, this document, the next It's titled The UN and Property Rights. It lists the land policy of the United Nations and was first, I have a lot of papers here, I do apologize, was first officially articulated.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Well, Mr. Harple, if I could, several other people have, let's see, the second speaker spoke from 3:18 to 3:31, and several people have received more than 3
I'm going to
minutes.
ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes and take your seat, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you very much. And I would ask you all to consider that the open comments are for city programs, policies, or services. Thank you. And if we have no other comments.
Actually, I'm standing here because I
Okay,
actually do have a comment, and it doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment. So I'm going to go back. My husband just now read where Mr. Norris was the chair at the Republican platform, and which stated that Agenda 21 is a real movement and that the Texas Republicans are working against it. And I'm excited to show you that in Alabama, Robert Bentley has made it illegal in Alabama, and we're looking forward to legislation which will make it illegal in Texas as well. We want you to know it's a real concern, and I hope that you will go and you'll consider the information, that you'll go through this and you'll read it, and you won't think about how much you hate me, but you'll think about the information and
Pretty
really.
assumption there, ma'am.
Well, you were pretty hostile to me, and you won't let me speak. But I'm very thankful that we still have freedom, and I hope that you will explore and find the courage to do what other leaders are doing, even leaders in Texas. And I hope that you'll find the courage to do what's right. God can give it to you. Thank you.
May I ask a question, please?
Certainly.
Is this a continuation of an attempt to tie this commission to the United Nations?
Basically, my husband was talking about ICLEI, and the reason we were talking about ICLEI is because with the water meters, ICLEI is one of the organizations which is sponsoring that. And so I don't need to tie what you're doing to the United Nations. The public and anyone who's paying attention can tie it. It's a real movement, and Amarillo is knee-deep in it. And what you're doing in private is going to come to light in public. There's nothing you can do in the dark that will not come to light. Be sure your sins will find you out. God bless you.
Well, I would say that is there any other comments? Okay. I think then we'll move back to executive session. Thank you for participating today in